Sorry about that. Good afternoon, Iona. This is the Antonio Matt Sports Hour, brought to you every Thursday lunch hour from 12 to 1 here at WICR Radio. I am your host, Matt Brownstein, going solo today. Antonio is out sick, so we wish him the best of luck getting better. So I will be taking you up until 1 p.m. And got to start off today talking about the New York Mets. The New York Mets last night, where I thought they were going to end their winning streak, won their 10th in a row. They have the longest winning streak in the majors right now. The second closest is the Cincinnati Reds with three. Had a big game last night against the Braves, winning 3-2. Dylan Gee pitched a tremendous game, the best game of his year so far. Went 7 innings, only gave up 2 runs, a couple of hits, and 3 strikeouts. But it was a big gutsy win for the Mets, and another come-from-behind win. They were down 2-1. Wilmer Flores with a huge home run. It seems like all his home runs he's had so far this season have been huge. Tied the game up at tied the game up at 2. And then in the eighth inning, you had Curtis Granderson, who started the inning off with a leadoff walk. He was down 0-2, and then worked the count back to full and got the big walk. Then you had Juan Lagares with a nice hit and run, which put runners on the corners. And Lucas Duda came up and delivered the game-winning single to put him ahead 3-2. And you had Familia come in the eighth and come in the ninth and shut him down for the seventh save of the year. And now, what is the 12th win for the Mets, who are 12-3 with the Major League's best record. Now, if you told me, I'm a Mets fan, you told me in the beginning of the season that the Mets were going to be 12-3 in their first 15 games, I probably would have laughed at you. I would not have believed that for a second. It's unbelievable what they're doing. They have an 800 winning percentage right now. I would have been happy if you told me they would have been 9-5 or 9-6 starting off. But 12-3 is absolutely phenomenal. They have the league's best record. They're beating up on all the National League East teams that have done so terribly against to them the last 5 or 6 seasons. So finally it's payback and it's justice for the Mets that they're coming back and having big wins. And the other thing is perception. A couple of years ago, if the Mets were down a run or two, I thought the game was over. I really did. Now, even if they're down a run or two or even three going into the 6th, 7th, 8th, ninth inning, my perception has changed dramatically, where I feel that the Mets are always in the game. They always have this will and fight to come back. And they're feeding off the crowd too, which is another major topic. Is that the fans are starting to come back out a little bit more. There's some electricity in the ballpark, especially when Matt Harvey and Jacob deGrom pitch. It's like an event watching these guys. I haven't seen something like this or heard about something like this since Doc Gooden pitched for the Mets. When Doc Gooden pitched for the Mets back in the mid '80s, I wasn't born yet, obviously, but I've heard stories and seen old videotapes. It was more of an event than a pitching performance, because Doc Gooden had the kind of stuff where any day he could go out and pitch a no-hitter, or strike out 20. Same kind of feel you have, especially from Matt Harvey, and you're starting to get that feeling for Jacob deGrom as well, where really any pitching performance they come out and do, they might have a huge game. And to see Harvey pitch this Saturday against the Yankees in the Bronx is going to be phenomenal. Obviously, everyone knows that Harvey grew up a Yankee fan in Mystic, Connecticut, but boy, what a job he's done so far. And then today, the Mets are going for 11 straight. 1 o'clock start, 1:10 start. They have Bartolo Colon going for his fourth win of the year. Guy's 40 years old, and he's going for his 4th win of the year. He's got a low 2 ERA. He's pitched phenomenally for the Mets. Like I said early on, I ate crow. I did not want him starting opening day, but he's just proved me wrong. He's done tremendously, pitching for the Mets so far. So got to give a lot of credit to Colon. This whole staff has been phenomenal, and that's the great thing with baseball, is when you have a pitching staff that's doing so well, they want to compete and they want to do well, and you feed off of the last day starter, so you got to believe that there was a fire in G's belly, that he wanted to go out and pitch as well as guys like deGrom and Harvey and Colon and Nice have been doing, because G really hasn't been pulling his weight. And G it came out, had a sit down with Terry Collins the other day, and kind of aired some things out, because G, if you might remember back in the winter, was talks of a lot of trades, and they wanted to move his contract. He's making about $4 or $5 million this year, so they wanted to see if they could trade for him, because obviously they have a lot of pitching down in the minor leagues that is ready to come up. And there was no big takers, or there was nothing that Sandy Alderson liked that he could have gotten for G, so G stayed with the Mets. But it was then going to be that he was going to be in the bullpen. He was going to be the long reliever heading into spring training until Zach Wheeler got hurt and went down with Tommy John surgery. And then there was a debate about whether or not Rafael Montero should start over G. And now Rafael Montero got sent down. It's to stretch his innings out so that way he can come up, and he's going to do a spot start, I believe, sometime in May. But there's still talk that Montero may take G's spot in the rotation, especially if G wasn't able to pitch, like he's capable of. But now last night was a big start for him. Hopefully, it's a continued success for G. He does have some good stuff, and he is a gutsy pitcher. Locates pitches very, very well. And he's the kind of guy that I still think will be traded. I still think he and Cologne might be traded as well, because the Mets are that deep in AAA where they have these guys that are knocking on the door real soon. But you could fetch a good amount for G. He is controllable. He's young still. He's not making that much money. So you better believe a team that's out there that's in the hunt is going to probably try to make a move for G. Probably before the All-Star break. Same thing goes for Cologne as well, especially because Cologne is on the last year of his deal, of his $2 million, $20 million deal he signed year and a half ago. So, but for right now, you don't want to mess with this team. This team is on a winning streak. It's one of their longest winning streaks. They have not had an 11-game winning streak since 1990, which just shows, Mets have been a little subpar since then. They did make the World Series in 2000, and they had a great run in 2006. But, it's really an exciting time for Mets fans. I know me and my buddy, we talk a lot about the Mets and how just the perception is just different around this team. You really feel like this team is in it to win it. You see the excitement in the dugout when guys just even walk. Last night watching the game, when Curtis Granderson drew that walk and they panned to the dugout, the guys were going crazy in the dugout. It's like he had a home run. So, these guys are feeding off each other. There's great team chemistry. What's wonderful, too, is that a lot of these guys that are up right now all play with each other in the minor leagues. So they're used to each other. They've played with one another. You look at a guy like Eric Campbell who's come up and filled in for David Wright. That's big shoes you have to fill. He's gotten on base every single game in the last 7 games he's played. So even if he doesn't get a hit, he's still, in the game. He did get a hit last night. He did score a run. Kevin Plawecki, the top prospect catcher that came up a couple days ago for the injured Travis d'Arnaud, had 2 hits in his debut. He's catching a brand new pitching staff for the most part. He's done very well as well. And then like I said, you have Wilmer Flores. Now let me get to Flores for a second, because a lot of people were down on Flores coming into the season, obviously. And Flores, for his part, trained hard. He came into the season in good shape. Obviously he's not the most fleet of foot shortstop. We all know that. But the thing with Flores is that what's great with him is that the home runs and the hits that he's gotten have come in big spots, which is wonderful because you want to see him produce in spots where it's most needed. And last night, again, his 3rd home run of the season, it was a tying home run. And if you want to compare him to guys that a fan like myself was, wanting, you look at Troy Tulowitzki's stats. Now, Troy Tulowitzki, please don't think I'm comparing him to Troy Tulowitzki, but Tulowitzki, though, he's having a good year so far. But I'll tell you one thing, Wilmer Flores has more home runs than Tulowitzki. Wilmer Flores has 1 less RBI than Tulowitzki. Tulowitzki has 8, Flores has 7. Tulowitzki has 1 home run, Flores has 3. His OPS, which is his slugging plus on-base percentage, for Tulowitzki is 863. For Flores, it's 819. Not too far back. Another guy that a lot of Mets fans were clamoring for, and there was potential, maybe a trade going on, or possibility, I should say, was Ian Desmond. Now, Ian Desmond has already had his shortcomings in the field, just like Flores has. But offensively, Desmond has, again, 1 home run. Flores has 3. Desmond has 5 RBIs. Flores has 7. Desmond has a 787 OPS. Flores has an 819 OPS. So you see the comparisons. I know it's a short sample size, only 13, 14 games so far. But, Flores, for the most part, has done well. He's hit when he's needed. We all knew his bat was good. We know his bat was live. We knew that he had the ability to, get on base. He's done it all throughout his minor league career. But the thing with Flores is always his defense. Where was he going to play? And that was the big question. Is he going to be more of a quadruple A kind of player where he's going to kind of fill in different roles? Is he going to be a guy that is necessarily going to have an actual position? Maybe he's better suited off for second base or even one of the corner positions. But the Mets needed a shortstop, and they stuck with him. And listen, he's going to go through some growing pains. He's going to have lapses in the field. He's not going to get to every single ball up the middle. But when he makes the plays, he does make the routine plays. He does have a pretty strong arm. So I say give him time. Let's see what he's got. He's obviously producing in big spots, which you want to see. So no longer right now is this a need like it was, 6 months ago where, all the Mets fans were clamoring for a Troy Tulowitzki trade and getting, that big bat in the lineup. You don't necessarily need all those big bats in the lineup to be able to produce, and that's what the Mets are showing you. The Mets are coming through with all different players so far. It seems like every night there's a new player coming up and stepping up big. And how about Juan Lagares' catch last night and making that over-the-shoulder circus catch reminiscent of like a young Andrew Jones? I mean, Juan Lagares, it doesn't surprise me, but yet it still does because this kid almost came out of nowhere. He was kind of an afterthought. I mean, a couple of years ago, you had Matt Den Decker, who was the big defensive center fielder. You had Kirk Neuenhuis, and then Juan Lagares just comes out of nowhere and just starts making these catches and putouts and, doubling guys off base and having a tremendous arm. And now he's starting to hit. They moved him up to, the second hole in the lineup. And, he's producing as well, too. He had that big, hit and run single last night in the eighth, which prompted Lucas Dudas' go-ahead single that put the Mets ahead 3-2 to end up winning the game. But really the key with the Mets is perception. And perception has tremendously changed for this lineup and for this team. Even just a few years ago, it's a completely different team now in the sense that these guys are buying into it. You see that they're having a lot of fun as well, which is wonderful. And every night they come into the ballpark thinking they're going to win. And I feel the same way. As a fan, even if they're down, I still think that they have a shot at winning, which is something that we haven't had in a long time, 5-6 seasons. If they were down a run or two, there was always going to be that Luis Castillo that was going to drop that pop-up. There was always going to be that Oliver Perez that was going to blow the game in the sixth. There was always going to be the bullpen that was going to give up the run. It was always something with this team. And not anymore. These guys, whether or not it's, the guys are, older and they're getting more comfortable, such as Juan Lagares and Wilmer Flores and guys like that. Guys just kind of stepping up into roles that they're not used to, like a Familia, who is a perfect 7-for-7 in the closers role, who's done a phenomenal job so far in this early season for them. I mean, the Mets going in had potentially, four or five closers. I mean, you had Vic Black, you had Bobby Parnell, you had Henry Mejia, and then you had, Familia, who was, so down on the totem pole in terms of closer that he kind of had to step up just for necessity because when Mejia went down with the injury and then was suspended for 80 games, and then you obviously had Parnell starting the year on the DL, you put Black on the DL. Now it's time for Familia to step up. The one thing I think the Mets could use, though, is a good setup man. Now, I like the Mets bullpen as a whole. I like Carlos Torres. I like Alex Torres. Hansel Robles is a young kid still who I like as well. He throws hard. But obviously they lost, Jerry Blevins, lost Josh Edgin. So the bullpen's a little, not I wouldn't say weak, but they're a little down right now. But they could definitely use a good setup guy. Hopefully Vic Black comes back. They're probably saying by the end of May. Parnell, he's kind of been roughed up so far in the minor leagues. He's only touched about 90 miles an hour, so he's going to probably need a little bit more time. But there are reinforcements on the way, and you still have some young kids in the minor leagues too. And one guy I thought that might be, a potential call-up, I don't know if the Mets want to go this route, though, is, why not have Steven Matz, the highly touted left-handed pitching prospect right now pitching in Vegas, why not have him come up, start in the bullpen, I mean, if you look at guys around the league, Adam Wainwright, the Cardinals started his career in the bullpen. I mean, Mets fans will never forget that devastating curveball he threw to Beltran in 2006 in the NLCS. David Price, pitched in the bullpen for the Rays in the playoff run. So, although you don't want to, necessarily stunt, his growth, and you don't want to take away innings from him, but maybe, right now the need for this Mets club is a good reliever, and especially a lefty reliever, to spell Alex Torres as well. So maybe Matz could be an option. You still have this kid Jack Leathersich in the minors, who's been kind of talked about the last couple seasons. He's still down there, so there are some options for the Mets to go to if they need be. But right now, again, going for 11 straight today at 110. Colon's on the mound, going for number 4 already on this early season. Who knows? Maybe he'll get another base hit. And can I just stop and say, is there anything better than watching Bartolo Colon hit? I mean, he is just the funniest guy to watch. If you haven't seen him hit, you got to look up on YouTube or go on MLB.com and just look up Bartolo Colon batting. I mean, the guy is just hysterical when he tries to swing, and even when he gets a hit, he just makes it look so awkward. But they love it in the dugout. They always rag on him, and it's just fun to watch. But this team really has something going for them. This team is making me believe more. I had my obvious doubts, and I would say I was kind of more of the glass half empty kind of guy going into the season. But listen, this team really has started to shine. They've really started to come together really well. And this is going to be a fun season. It already has been. in the first 15 games. If there's any reminiscent of what the rest of the season is going to be like, watch out for the rest of the MLB. Be right back.